or okay, it's just past 6 minutes after. We want to get started with tonight's presentation, which is about Agile. We love Agile as a methodology, as a topic. We love all of them, to be honest with you. So we want to have Mike get online and talk to us about, I guess, kind of show us a couple tips and tricks to try to be Agile, even if we think we can't be Agile, even if we've been told we can't be Agile or do Agile. Mike is a co-founder and partner of Agility IRL, where he educates, coaches, consults with individuals, teams, and organizations. He is an expert in Scrum, but he has many other skill set when it comes to the Agile frameworks. He is, I would say, a very diverse background as far as his career path. He has been a software developer, and he apologized to anyone who's ever had to maintain his codes. He's been a business analyst, tester. He's been pretty much all through various, I guess you could say, milestones or wood stops when it comes to project life. He is a Scrum practitioner. He is an advocate of Agile, and he is here to talk to us about Agile and show us some ways and maybe some tips and encouragement as to how we can all apply the Agile mindset. And hopefully we can take what we learned tonight back to our teams, back to our companies, and do better. Mike, you can hop on. Are you on?
I am, Florence.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and share out my deck
sharing.
Here.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you, Florence, for the opportunity to present. Thank you all for attending. As Florence said, my name is Mike Stuedemann. I'm an Agile coach and trainer based currently out of Andover, Minnesota, which is just north of the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul. But I'm coming to you tonight from Texas. I got an opportunity to escape our winter chill in Minneapolis and work with a client down here over the past few days. So I want to jump in right away and talk about 10 ways to be Agile without being Agile. Now, we're going to use some of what we're going to talk about in governing our time together tonight. So your first way to be Agile without really being Agile is that all good teams should have a working together agreement. Notice I said all good teams, whether you're doing Scrum, Kanban, extreme programming, or even waterfall, you should have a working together agreement. A working together agreement is a series of agreements that we make with each other when we are in team. So I have a proposed working together agreement for us as a class. That working together agreement is seen here. So I'd like it if you have your cameras on. Be nice to see some of your faces out there. If not, no worries. If you have pets or children, do not worry about them interrupting you. My only rule is if we see them on camera, we have to meet them. Be fully present and participate. We're going to have some exercises here that we'll be doing tonight. People will get more out of those exercises if everyone is participating. Respect the time boxes and each other. As I said, we have a few exercises here. So respect the time boxes for those. The each other part, I think, is fairly straightforward. Ask questions. My goal as an Agilist is always to maximize value in the time box granted. So I want you disconnecting from class or disconnecting from our presentation tonight. Pardon me, I was teaching today. I want you disconnecting from our presentation saying, hey, I got maximum value out of that 50 minutes or so I spent on this session. And then provide feedback. Let me know if there's anything I can do to make your participation in tonight's presentation better. So make sure that you have a working together agreement as a team. So I want to jump right away into at least 10 ways to be Agile without being Agile. Now, the important thing to establish here as we're jumping into the topic is what do we mean by Agile? So I'm going to give you just a 2-minute time box. In that 2-minute time box, I want you to individually brainstorm what Agile means. Okay? Try to develop a definition that's no more than 4 words in length. Okay? So, going to give you just 2 minutes here and I'll keep the timer off screen. 2 minutes here to write down your definition of Agile. When you're comfortable with your definition, even if the time box hasn't expired, you can go ahead and put your definition in the chat. Okay? So 2 minutes on the clock to define Agile. That 2 minutes begins now. Good luck. So Kim and John have already put a few words in there. I like it. Florence jumped in with a simple yet valid definition. I see Ajit and Kasanya. I hope I'm saying that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kasanya. Just under a minute remaining. Priya with delivering more often. I like that. Kind of fits with Florence's message of frequent delivery. Give you about 15 seconds here. Mary with flexible. Rick with accelerating value iteratively. That's a mouthful, Rick, but we'll accept it. It's under 4 words. All right, so I think we have some good definitions here. So let me stop the timer so it doesn't interrupt us. Laura in at the buzzer with transparent, collaborative, iterative delivery, upping the word score of Rick's entry. Okay. So Agile fundamentally, folks, is not something that you do. It's something that you are. It's a mindset. It's a belief system. It's a way of looking at the world. As Agile has become more popular, as it's become a buzzword, people have kind of forgotten that. You will hear people say things like, we're going to implement Agile, or we're going to do Agile. That makes as much sense as saying we're going to implement Buddhism, or we're going to do democracy. Right? So know that Agile is a philosophy. Because it's a philosophy, there are multiple ways to embody the philosophy. My definition of Agile is customer-centric value delivery. Customer-centric value delivery. We put the customer at the center of everything that we do. Agile fundamentally is the ability to rapidly respond to change in pursuit of customer-centric value delivery. So with this definition in place, let's begin our journey on how we can have our organizations be Agile under that definition without having to adopt a formal Agile framework. So, as I said, this is going to be very interactive. And in keeping with that theme, I have another exercise for you. So, how many people here, by a show of hands, are good at multitasking? Where are my good multitaskers? Yeah, Mary's hedging a little bit. Yeah, Florence is willing to put her hand up. I have a bold hypothesis here on a Thursday evening that you are not good at multitasking because you all appear to be human beings. Okay? So we're going to do a little exercise here to prove just how poor you are at multitasking. So you're going to need a pen and paper for this exercise. I have some projects that I'd like you to work on. This first project is going to be called the Alphabet Project. I'm just bringing up my timer here. When I say go, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to write as many letters of the alphabet as you can down your page. Okay? So start with A, go all the way to Z. Okay? If you still have time when you get to Z, go ahead and start again with double A, double B, double C, double D, so on and so forth. Okay. So 30 seconds to work on the alphabet project. On your mark, get set, go. Done. Go ahead and put how far you got on the alphabet project in the chat, please. What letter or letters did you get to? Mary's to KK. Laura to FF. MM for Amanda. KK. Yeah, a couple of HHs. Very good. In this next round of the game, I need you to continue working on the alphabet project, starting again with A. Okay, no fair reusing your list from the first round. The next project, though, that I need you to work on is called the numbers project. Next to each letter, I need you to write the number associated with that letter in the alphabet. So A1, B2, C3, D4, makes sense? Once again, if you get to Z, start again with double A. Double A would be 27. 30 seconds on the clock to work on the alphabet and the numbers project. On your mark, get set, go. Done. Go ahead and put your results from this round in the chat, please. Give me the letter and the number that you got to. Well, now wait a second. Something must be wrong with this chat because productivity went down, yet I know I'm being joined by a number of good multitaskers here. Maybe you'll make it up in the third round. In the third round, I need you to work on yet another project for me. I need you to work on the alphabet project, starting again with A. I need you to work on the numbers project, starting again with 1. And this third project I'm really excited about. I'm sure you will be excited as well. This third project is called the planets project. Next to each number, I need you to write the planet associated with that number based upon its position from the sun outwards. Right? Mercury is number 1. I'll give you Mercury. And Pluto is a planet because that's what I learned in school, damn it. Okay. Now, if you get all the way through all 9 planets, you can obviously start again with Mercury. 30 seconds on the clock to work on the alphabet project, the numbers project, and the planets project. That 30 seconds begins now. Go. Done. Go ahead and put your results from our third and final round in the chat, please. I need the letter, the number, and the planet that you got to. Go ahead and enter it in the chat. Mary has a question mark, H8 Uranus. Yeah. A1 Mercury. Laura, thank you for being honest. Yeah, Amanda as well. So let's talk a little bit about what happened here. What did you notice in rounds 2 and 3 with your thinking? Anyone here notice a little pause? Anyone notice that? Yeah, there's a name for that pause. That pause is called switching costs, okay, or switching cost. The research on switching cost is well established. In fact, Jerry Weinberg, a management theorist, did a study way back in 1991. Weinberg found that for every simultaneous project assignment you have, a greater percentage of your, brain capacity is taken up by switching cost. To where if you are assigned to 6 simultaneous projects, you have about an hour a day to do real work. So I'm not going to make you hold up your papers, but does anyone here want to talk about the quality that they showed in rounds 2 and 3? How's your handwriting?
It went to the gutter.
Yeah, it went down. Now, not only might the quality of your handwriting went down, but did anyone here start skipping letters or skipping numbers? Yeah. Okay. Now, look at the implications of this, folks. I task switched you across 3 simple things. Imagine if I was task switching you across 3 projects that determined whether your organization was in compliance with government mandates, or 3 projects that determined whether your customers' payments were received correctly, or 3 projects that determined whether a patient received the right medical device. So this leads us right off the bat to 3 ways that we can be agile, even if we're not agile, quote unquote. Those 3 ways are as follows. 1, we want to increase focus. Anything you can do to increase focus on a team is going to help them with customer-centric value delivery. 2, prioritize the work. Anyone who's asking you to work on multiple priorities at the same time is essentially saying, I can't figure out what's important. You figure out what's important, and I'll judge whatever decision you make. The reason they're delegating that decision to you is because we just proved that you can't multitask. So you're going to have to choose what's most important, what's least important. The third way that we can be agile without being agile is by being an advocate for long-lived teams. Long-lived teams not only increase focus, but they also help people learn how other people work. So 3 ways to get us kicked off here on our list of at least 10 ways to be agile. So let's go ahead and move forward and add to the list. The next way to be agile relates to a problem that I think is endemic in our society. That issue is written communication. So imagine that I'm going to order a cake. And on the order form, I'm asked, what would I like written on my cake? So I fill out the form and I wrote nothing. I don't want anything on the cake. This is what I receive. See the issue? The written word is oftentimes the only way that we have to communicate our needs, but it's still a horrible way to do so. So our next way to be agile, without truly being agile, is to be an advocate, for face-to-face communication. So let me give you a real-world way to do this. This is possible even if you're in different geographies, as evidenced by our presentation tonight. We're all in different geographies, and yet we're practicing face-to-face communication for those of us that have our cameras on. So that's one real-world example, is have your cameras on. Another real-world example is try to follow the 2 email rule or the 3 email rule. The 2 email rule or the 3 email rule states there can only be a maximum of 3 emails on a topic. After that, we have to talk to each other in some way. At a minimum, a phone call, ideally a Zoom call like this where we're sharing each other's video. So be an advocate for face-to-face communication. Before we add that to our list, though, let's look at yet another way to be agile without being agile. Now, this example, I'm going to date myself. How many of you remember the iPhone 1.0? Anyone here remember this? It's a picture of it there on the screen. If you don't remember it, see one of your more veteran colleagues after the presentation tonight. We'll talk about the old days with you. Now, I don't know how many people remember iPhone 1.0, but let me tell you a little bit about it. iPhone 1.0 really didn't have any applications. You can see the calculator there. The calendar was really a link to a website. It wasn't really a calendar. It had a simple web browser on it, but it was really just a phone. In fact, it was a phone that was 50% reliable. Now, 50% reliable doesn't sound that bad, but let's translate that into real world terms. 50% reliable means 1 out of every 2 phone calls failed. So why was Apple able to release this? Well, they were able to release it because when did iPhone 1.1 come out? When did they upgrade the software? A few days after. When did 1.1.2 come out? A few days after that. So the takeaway here for us as we pursue customer-centric value delivery is that we have to iterate. The more you can iterate, the easier time you're going to have of trying to respond to features that users didn't even know they wanted until they had the product. So even if you're not going to release something, get something close to the product into the hands of a user as quickly as possible. That will give you time and dollars to respond. So let's update our list here now with our next 2 ways to be agile. We have demonstrate face-to-face communication, use those cameras. We have iterate and have tight feedback loops. Put the product in the hands of a real user or a real customer, and then go ahead and get some feedback, use that feedback to iterate again. So we're halfway through our list of ways to be agile. Let me stop. Any questions, comments, or concerns before we jump in to the second half of our 10 ways?
Not a concern, more like a comment. I'm one of those people who practice I guess, 4 or 5 emails, let's jump on a call. And even then I find resistance. People just want to keep the email chain going. Do you have any tips for getting them off the email chain and on a call, like a Teams call? And
Sure.
that is one thing that I would like to get better at.
Yeah, I mean, so my wife and I have 3 sons. The reason I bring that up is being a father of 3 teenage boys has taught me that I can't force another human being to do something that they don't want to do. So Florence, good question. You can't force somebody to do something that they don't want to do. You can make it easier, though. A couple of ways to make it easier is let them know that you're going to time box the discussion. It's not going to be a long meeting. We can get this done in 15 minutes or less. 2, when you get on, respect your commitment. Really keep the meeting focused. 3, make it easy. Set the meeting up for them. But just recognize that oftentimes the reason that people want an email, and this is kind of dark for a Thursday evening, but I'll say it anyways. The reason that people oftentimes wanted an email is because they don't trust each other. Right? They want to be able to go back and say, well, Florence, you said this 3 weeks ago. Right. And you can say, but Mike, you said this 3 weeks and 2 days ago. So you kind of have to get over that lack of trust ultimately if they're going to be comfortable or more comfortable with the face-to-face. Other questions, comments?
Kim commented.
Yeah,
Kim was commenting. I guess she just schedules the meeting.
I like it. Hurry up and get on with it, right?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and look at our next 5 ways to be agile. Number 6 on our list involves another core attribute of being a human being. So because I am working with a smart group of people tonight, the smartest group that I've ever worked with from the Central Illinois chapter, this is my first time presenting to you folks, I have some questions I need you to answer. Okay? I need you to predict everything on page 9 here. I need to know tomorrow's weather in Chicago, including the temperature and the amount of precipitation. I need the value of the stock market at the end of next month. I need the winner of next year's Super Bowl. I'm preferring it's the Minnesota Vikings, but it's up to you to let me know that. I need the president of the United States in the year 2032. And an item that should be fairly easy for all of us as project management professionals, I need the delivery date for a project that will begin in the next 6 months. Go ahead and type your answers to all those questions in the chat. Well, now this is interesting. I'm not getting many answers. The reason I'm not getting many answers is because it's impossible for us as human beings to predict the future. We can't predict any of these things with any sort of accuracy. We can make guesses at them, but they are purely guesses. So what this means for us as project management professionals is, in order to do the job that we do, we have to acknowledge what's known as the cone of uncertainty. Now, living in Minnesota, I'm subjected to a lot of different weather phenomena, right? Zach is taking shots at me. Definitely know the Vikings aren't winning the Super Bowl. Wow, that's harsh, Zach. But you're also true. Also true. So living in Minnesota, I'm subjected to a lot of weather phenomena. The one thing that I'm not subjected to, though, are hurricanes. When a hurricane is approaching the Gulf Coast or approaching Houston, I'm in Houston tonight, there is a graphic that weather forecasters will often display. That graphic is shown on the left-hand side of your screen here. That graphic is called the cone of uncertainty. The further out in the future that you ask me to predict, the wider my cone is going to be. So what does this mean to all of us as project management professionals? It means that when we're asked to predict something, the further out we're asked to predict, the wider realm of outcomes we need to provide. So there's an article that is out there written by a guy by the name of Daniel Visconti in the Agile community. The title of the article is "Your Project Behaves Like a Hurricane, Forecast It Like One." At a minimum though, the way to be agile without really being agile here is acknowledge the cone of uncertainty. Think about it, folks. For a hurricane, the cone of uncertainty 4 days out might be as wide as being from New Orleans, Louisiana to Tallahassee, Florida. How wide is the cone going to be for a project that you're leading 2 years from now? It's going to be super, super big. The only way to deal with that is to do what hurricane forecasters do: regularly replan and narrow the cone constantly as you iterate through the delivery of the product. So moving forward and keeping up with the interactive nature of our session here tonight, our 7th way to be agile without really being agile is to deal with the most abused word in all of product development. The most abused word in all of product development is the word done. So how many people here have ever heard one of the following sayings? I'm done, I just need to test it. Anyone here want to buy a car that's done but not tested? I'll give you a really good deal on it. I'm sure you're familiar with hearing percentages of done. I'm 50% done, I'm 70% done. So I want to give you 2 minutes here. Yeah, John had done, and then its cousin, done. Right? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes here. I want you to list as many ways as you can regarding how you've seen done defined in your work. After you've done that in this brief 2 minutes, think about what your user or your customer considers done. So I'll put 2 minutes on my timer, 2 minutes on the clock. When you get your definitions of done, sorry for the Department of Redundancy department, you can go ahead and put them, some of them in the chat if you'd like. 2 minutes on the clock. About a minute left in the time box. So John has dependent on fulfilling requirements and customer acceptance. I like it. Strong start. About 30 seconds remaining. Evidence of the test stock having been completed. 90% done for 2 weeks. Hand it off to the next person. Mary, your answer gets comedy points. Not that we're keeping score. I don't know if that's funny, Mary, or sad funny, but true. So our time box has expired. I don't really care how you define done. What I do care about in your quest for customer-centric value delivery is that you have a definition of done that is well communicated and well understood by everyone on the team. If you don't have a definition of done that you're sharing, you're taking on a huge risk in your project. So let me give you just an example of that risk. Let's say that Florence and I are teammates, and Florence comes to me and says, Mike, are you done? I go, yep, I'm done. And Florence goes, but I don't see your work product in our repository. And I go, oh, well, done means I'm done writing it. Doesn't mean I put it where we need it to be. And hilarity ensues. So our seventh way to be agile is to define done. Make that definition clear. Put it in, make it sure that it's communicated to everyone. Post it in the team's workspace. If you're working in a distributed team like this presentation is, send it out to all the team members and tell them to post it in their home offices. You will improve communication. You will reduce risk by having a common way to, a common nomenclature, to talk about done. So our eighth way to increase our agility without adopting a formal agile framework is to address everyone's favorite topic, dependencies. I might be using a little bit of sarcasm there. One way to increase your team's customer-centric value delivery is to address dependencies. You have multiple ways to do that. I've listed some of these ways here on the next page of our presentation. I'm not going to walk through all of these, but some that I'd highlight is you could have a Scrum of Scrums where you have various developers working on various parts of the project talk to each other. You could have Scrum boards, or as Alistair Coburn, one of the gentlemen that wrote the Agile Manifesto, calls them, BVCs, big visible charts. There's a technique called user story mapping. You could have multi-team meetings to talk about dependencies. There's a concept that comes from a scaled Agile approach called LESS, or large-scale Scrum. That technique is called team travelers. With team travelers, you remove dependencies by sending someone from the team that has the specialized skill set over to a team that doesn't have that specialized skill set. The person that goes to that dependent team, they're not there to do the work. They're there to teach that team how to be self-sufficient, how to remove that dependency. The best way, of course, to address a dependency is to eliminate it, to help that team that was dependent upon this other team be self-sufficient, not just, to use the old proverb, provide them with fish, but teach them how to fish for themselves. This requires a large mindset shift in most organizations, because unfortunately, most organizations treat contractors better than they treat their own employees. Let me give you an example. When we have dependencies in a lot of organizations, the way that we address those dependencies oftentimes is by adding resources. I prefer to call you people because that's what you are, but adding people to the team that's really, really busy. We oftentimes do that by hiring contractors or consultants. Are those contractors or consultants immediately productive? No, we have to train them up. And because they're contractors and consultants, they eventually leave, which means all the time that we invested in training them and bringing them up to speed is now considered what? Waste. Better to have us eliminate the dependency by having the employees on that team teach employees on another team how to do some of what they do. Not easy, but another way to increase your agility. Getting down there on our list, we have 2 remaining. Our 9th way to increase our agility is to shift from output-based thinking to outcome-based thinking. We have a tendency to be very, very output-focused in the project management world. We like to measure red, yellow, green status. We like to measure on time, on budget. We like to measure how many hours people put into things. Those are all outputs. Outcomes is the impact that the output has or does not have on our targeted customer or user base. So we can increase our agility by not focusing on the outputs. We still need the outputs, but instead focusing on the outcomes, thinking about who specifically are we targeting when we say customer-centric value delivery, and what business goals are we trying to impact? So for example, an outcome might be we want to decrease our application rejections by 50%. We want to speed our refund process from 10 days to 5 days. So our 9th way to be agile without being agile is to focus on outcomes. Now, don't interpret that as getting rid of outputs. You're still going to have outputs, but shift to outcomes. Our last way to be agile without really being agile is to focus on the team. So how many people here, and you can put this in the chat, how many people here are either presently on a team or on a team in their most recent role or position? Go ahead and just put yes or no on in the chat. Yeah, so as I see the yeses flying by, most of us think we're on teams. Notice I said think we're on. I think we overuse the word team in most organizations. Let me give you a couple of definitions, and then let me give you a test that you can use in the real world to figure out if you were on a real team. So first, the definitions. A group, which is probably what most of you are in, a group is a number of people brought together to do related work. A group is a number of people brought together to do related work. A team is a number of people brought together to pursue a common goal, who are willing to sacrifice of their individual goals in order to achieve the common goal. As I said a few moments ago, I think we overuse the word team in most organizations. So let me give you a test that you can use to figure out the type of entity that you're in. Put that entity into crisis. It can be a really hard deadline. It could be a new, more nimble competitor. It could hypothetically be a global pandemic. Not that that would ever happen. What happens to a group in crisis? They attack each other. That's where you get the behavior of, well, hey, it's not my fault. It's Amanda's fault. And Amanda goes, Stuedemann, it's not my fault. It's clearly Kim's fault. And Kim goes, why are you blaming me? We all know it's Mary's fault. And while we're pointing our fingers at each other, what's the competition doing? They're delivering value. So has a project manager in the 21st century, a 10th way to be agile without really being agile is to advocate for true teams. Get people established around a common goal. Educate them on what a team really means. See if people are willing to sacrifice of their individual goals to achieve the common goal. Now, I know our time is drawing to a close here in a few moments. We got about 13 minutes left. But notice my title was at least 10 ways to be agile without being agile. So everyone here remember Billy Mays? But wait, there's more. Yeah. So I wanted to give you a few more ways to be agile before I open it up for questions. There are a number of other ways. Those other ways are shown here on page 22 of my deck. First, define value. Value is a very, very abused word in our organizations. How many people here have ever heard, by show of hands, have ever heard, well, that's not value add? Anyone here ever heard that? So we use terms like value add all the time, but rarely do we stop and say, well, what do you mean when you say value? So get a common definition of value. Ask the question, who can authorize work? In most organizations, it's not clear who can actually say, yes, we're going to do this. Can you say it as a project manager? Does it need to come from a member of the steering committee? Does it need to come from an executive? Depending on the situation, might any of these entities provide contradictory authorizations? So ask who can authorize the work and try to single that decision down to a single person. Look at incentives in the organization. Most people behave rationally. There are irrational people out there, but most people are rational actors. So if you're seeing behavior that doesn't lead to customer-centric value delivery, ask what incentives do people have that might be driving that behavior. So for example, if my individual bonus is based upon my performance rating and what I do and only what I do, I will only collaborate with you. Sorry about that. I will only collaborate with you up to the point that my individual bonus is impacted. After that, it's every man, woman, and child for him or herself. Another way to be agile is to run the experiment. Oftentimes, teams will be arguing about different approaches to a problem. The best way to settle the argument oftentimes isn't to keep arguing. Instead, it's to design an experiment, run the experiment, and then evaluate what the results of that experiment say about your next step. You similarly need to hurry up and get on with it sometimes. Think about a little kid learning a sport. When we, being from Minnesota, my two oldest sons play hockey. When they were learning hockey, I didn't give them a book on hockey. I didn't put them in a class to teach them hockey. What did I do? I bought them a helmet, I bought them a stick, I bought them some skates, and I put them out on the ice. That was the only way for them to learn whether they liked the game and to learn whether they wanted to continue playing the game. They hurry up and got on with it, right? They tried it out. If you're going to maximize customer-centric value delivery, you got to spend time with the customer. Go spend time with the customer in their native environment. Go visit them in the warehouse. Go visit them in the call center. Go on a ride along with a sales rep. Jump in the cab of a truck with a delivery person. Another bonus way to be agile is to reflect frequently. Don't wait till the end of a project to conduct a lessons learned session. Reflect regularly, every week, every couple of weeks. Bring the team together. Ask how the process is or is not working. Ask what can be changed to help us work better as a team. You don't want to wait till the end of the game to talk about ways that you could have played the game better. Finally, and arguably most importantly, another way to be agile is to simply ask the team. Go to the team, go to the smart people that you work with and say, hey, if we think that we want to increase our value delivery, what are the ways that we can do so? Ask the team. So, in keeping with the theme that I started with tonight of practicing what I preach, I want to finish up my presentation by asking the team. You're the team that I'm serving here tonight. I'm going to open it up for an Ask Me Anything session. Hopefully it's Agile related, but if you want to talk about the Vikings, I'll do that no matter how painful it might be for me. What questions do you have, either about anything that I presented, challenges that you're facing in your current role, or Agile in general?
Any questions, you guys? You don't have to be on camera. You can just stay off camera and ask your questions. I do have one, Mike. Going back to the definition of done.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, it seems like there's a constant moving of the goalposts. And I just don't, if I don't go along with it, sometimes I feel like I'm not being agile. I'm not listening to what they're telling me. But I don't like the feeling of the yo-yo, like the sliding scale. And I've experienced that a few times, and I never really quite like that experience.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, your experience is not uncommon. Okay, that yo-yoing effect. One of the misconceptions that I think exists about Agile is a lot of people look at Agile as we can do anything, anytime, any way we want. Agile is actually the opposite. So I'm going to share a quote with you from a guy who runs one of my hero companies. This company is called Menlo Innovations. It's based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The gentleman's name is Rich Sheridan. Rich says that Agile is not freedom from tyranny. It's freedom through tyranny. We're tyrannical, but we're tyrannical about a simple set of practices. So when it comes to definition of done, I would put definition of done in one of those tyrannical practices. And because definition of done speaks to the quality that we're going to deliver at, and we can't compromise on quality. So the yo-yoing that you feel, I think, is normal. I think you need to express to the team, hey, we can't keep compromising. Otherwise, we're really just kicking this difficult conversation around done down the road. And that increases risk. Other questions, comments?
Let's see. Okay, Kim was saying she can't wait to apply them. Thank you, Kim.
Oh, I appreciate it, Kim.
That's good feedback. That's very good feedback. Anything else?
Hey, Mike, this is Priya. A quick question on run the experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something you can do when you have retrospectives, right? Like every week or every other week, just to see how things are going. And if something is not working, maybe we should try something different. And then, like after 2 weeks and see, is that new experiment working or not, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I would say, Priya, the great teams that I've been around, they even do retrospectives more frequently. I had a team that every day they just get together for 5 minutes at the end of the day and say, hey, how did today go for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't even waiting for that 2-week time period because they knew, hey, we can pick up little things along the way that are going to make us better. My big thing is just don't wait till the end, because at the end, the game's over.
Exactly. And then if you're in the, process of if you're working on a project and, if you wait till the end, then even if there are there are some things that people wanted to change, it's too late,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
And yeah. And another thing that you mentioned about spend time with the customer, this is like, are you referring to, like once you have delivered the project, you're trying to get feedback from the customers to see how everything is?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay. Because you want to improve your project. You want to improve what you have delivered.
Exactly.
Yep.
The reason, folks, that and Priya, thanks for the comment. One of the reasons that the saying "there's nothing like being there" exists is because there's nothing like being there, right? We have to get the people that are building the product with the people that are going to be consuming the product. We have to let them see things that they just can't get in any other way.
Yep. Thank you. I recently had something we migrated, and then I reached out to my business partners and asked them, are you getting feedback from your customers? What kind of feedback you're getting? And we got really good feedback. And now we are basically working on delivering that feedback. So
that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'll make sure, Florence, that I get you a PDF version of these presentations. If you're interested in learning more about our company, there's a page here. You can see pictures of my business partner and I. You can scan the QR codes. Check us out on the web. Love to hear from people with questions. Love to see you in a class. But I really appreciate everyone's participation tonight. My thanks to John and Florence as well from the chapter.
Thank you, Mike. This was really, really good. You gave us more than 10, so we love freebies. I love freebies. So I am looking forward to your PDF PowerPoint so I can share it out to all the people who came and the ones who registered, because I will be sending out the event survey after, maybe not tonight, but by tomorrow. And it will, I hope to get it by then, Mike.
Yeah, I should be able to get it to you tonight.
Okay, so that it's part of the survey, so you can tell us how we did for today. We want to hear, we want to get better at these events. I am Florence Renee, VP of Publicity. With me, I wasn't here by myself. I had John Sanders, VP of Operation. I had different people from the professional development team helping out, Mama Dussault, Cassania Thompson, who all helped out to make this event possible. We have events on our event registration page. Please go out and register. The next one is on March 14th. It's a lunch and learn with Tiago Mateus, and he will show us how to project our life using the project management skill set that we all have in a more personal way. I hope to see all of you there, and definitely check out the event page, register, follow us on social media. That way you can keep up with the publicity team, because we do push out a lot of content to kind of keep you all up to date. And as far as I'm concerned, we had a great event for today. Mike, I can't thank you enough. Like I said, the presentation was A1.
Excellent. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It was great. Any questions? We do have a couple of people still hanging out with us. If not, we can just stop you, John, and just have a wonderful evening. And see you all next week on the 14th.